subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from passionate Reds, only on All for United.
Evening, everybody. I think John might have frozen. So I'll just do the quick intro. Welcome to All for United. Joining John tonight is myself, Fred, Andrew, and Neil. And I think John might be back.
Thank you for covering, Stu. I could hear everything. I just couldn't actually say anything or anything. It just suddenly froze on me. Never happened before, but hey ho, it does tend to happen.
Can I just say that was my host in 30 seconds, never to be repeated.
And whatever happened, they sorted out the audio, so maybe it was my fault after all. Who knows? Who knows? Yeah, I did hear the intro. Thank you very much, Stu. Yeah, got lots of stuff to talk about tonight. It really is, and thank you for joining us. We are a little bit earlier than we thought because it's usually a Thursday night show, but we thought we'd do it on a Wednesday today. And it's definitely Neil's echo. So I think what we need to do is get you muted, Neil, until you're ready to chat, and then we'll jump on there. Stuart, welcome to the show, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, pretty good actually. Had a pretty good day. Been out to sunny Chester today working, so yeah, can't be bad.
Not too bad at all. It's raining by me. I don't know how it's sunny up there, but yeah, it's raining by me. Fred, first time I've done a show with you, mate. How you doing?
Very well, thank you, John. Thanks for having me on.
Ready.
Sorry, all good, thank you. Yeah, it's been pissing it here as well, so not so good just down south. But yeah, look forward to the show.
Yeah, thank you for joining us, Fred. Andrew, how you keeping, mate?
Not too bad, I say. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, excellent. We're going to do a show with you with our men's team, so this will be an interesting one. I know you got a good time as well. Neil, thanks for messaging me and wanting to come on to the show. It's the first time that we've done a show together as well. How are you doing, mate?
Not bad at all.
Awesome. Yeah, looking forward to this. So we're going to start off with a topic on the thumbnail. This is something that Stu come up with 2 or 3 days ago, and we can spin this any way we want. I know there's a title on the thumbnail, there's a title on the show itself. I would spin it as "What would you do if you was Marcus Rashford?" On your tweet to me earlier, Stu, I think you said something slightly different, but this is the kind of angle that we want to go towards. So go on, Stu, introduce your topic, mate.
Yes, it's been bugging me for a while now, old Rashford and his demise. And I always wondered whether or not it was just injury, whether he's fallen out of love with football, who's he got around him, what type of people are leading him in which direction, how strong the club being with him. And it kind of made me think about what I would do if I was him and how would I get myself out of this rut that he's been in, because he's still a young lad, 24, 25 years of age. He hasn't really hit his peak yet that a footballer would do, which is about 27, 28. And he's in danger of falling off the radar completely. His career is hanging by a bit of a thread. And so I was thinking about it one day, and I wonder what would I do? How would I resurrect my career if I was floundering like that? And I want to propose something quite radical, and it is quite radical. And a lot of people will turn around and say, yeah, you're just talking rubbish and all this kind of nonsense. But I think he's got somebody strong within his family or his circle has got to tell him that he kind of needs to take himself away, not at the spotlight, but away from his luxurious lifestyle to an extent. Because when Marcus Rashford was 14, 15 and 16, and he was desperately wanting to play football 24/7. We've all done it. We've all taken the ball out and got him from school. You grow up, but he's still striving to be this footballer, this professional footballer playing for his boyhood club. He was living in a 2 up, 2 down at the time. His mum and dad were struggling. His mum was struggling. It's well documented. He had friends that were keeping his feet on the ground. He was going on, to the Cliff or Carrington where he was going training, and he's coming back. And I wonder if he needs to almost go back to that environment. If he needs to forget he's made it, he almost need to set the reset switch, push the reset switch.
So I was going to ask one question, then I'll put it up to you guys, and this can come straight back to you, Stu. Can you do that playing at Man United, or do you need to step away from Man United to actually press that reset button? Because it's going to be very hard to maybe go back down that kind of route potentially. I don't know.
Well, you can do it at any football club. It's up to you. It's up to the individual. It's up to the personality to want to do it. It's people will jump on people's backs about, well, it's got nothing to do with money. And unfortunately, it has. Everything in life has to do with money. The only reason you get up and go to work in the morning is to earn a living, is to put food on your table, protect your family. It's the only way you go to work. And when you're not looking at your bank account every day, your motivation just dips. Now, two things can happen with a footballer. And I'm not a huge thing on confidence. Me and Neil have spoken about this on plenty of occasions. I don't believe confidence is a key thing. People disagree with me. I just think, you just knuckle down and get on with it. You play yourself back into a match. But when you're comfortable in life, when you haven't got to worry about where the next tenner's coming from, or whether or not you've got to pop down a food bank or whatever, your perspective in life completely changes. And when you've made it to the highest level, which he has, he's represented the greatest club on earth and the greatest country on earth. Where else is there for him to go? Where is that hunger? What's he got to do to get the hunger back? And I think if it was me, I'd be wanting my social circle to kind of get a hold of me and say, look, let's go and rent a 2 up, 2 down again. Let's go and buy a Ford Focus. Stick that in the drive. So when you're leaving Carrington every day, you're not going back to your 7-bed mansion anymore. You're going back to a 2 up, 2 down. This is where you begun, mate. This is where you don't belong, but this is where you began. This is where it all started for Marcus Rashford. And I think he needs to go back to something similar to that, to regain that hunger and that motivation. And it's just my viewpoint. And I just wonder what you guys thought about the situation and about whether or not you feel there's a different way that we could get the very, very best out of Rashford again. But that was my thoughts.
As I say, just to pick up on your points, I just think it's a bit sad to see, Rashford now. When he burst onto the scene back in 2016, now he's enduring such a lean spell in his career. And I think sometimes you have to remember he's still only 24 years old. And he's still to reach his peak. Yeah, you can argue he's one of several United players who have been enjoying a good season, and questions have been started to be raised. Well, is his future lying away from the club? And I mean, you can't argue his dedication and love for United. It runs deep. He's been with us since the age of 7. And God forbid if he was to leave, it would be a bitter pill for all of us to swallow, because I don't think United should ever allow that to happen. But I just think, well, last season he wasn't fully fit, and we believed a fully fit Marcus Rashford, would be going on scoring 20 goals a season. But it seems when Rashford returned from injury, which was 2 months into the season, the United side were in turmoil with poor form and inconsistent results, and then obviously a change of manager. And it's just, I don't think there's been too many grumbles from United fans that we've not been seeing Rashford in the starting 11 recently. But I thought when Ronaldo was ill on Saturday and he couldn't play the Leicester game, I thought Rashford should have probably come in. But I don't know whether Rangnick was trying to send a message to all the players. Well, the Rashford's out of form, so I'm not going to play him at the moment. But he just seemed like a shadow of the player he once was. And I just think the best way to get him back into form, well, I say the best way is he needs to get a consistent run of games, but he's not had that. And you could say Ollie and now Ralph would argue they gave him enough chances to impress, but he hasn't done that. And I don't know whether just taking him out, like you said, Stu, taking him out of the limelight and just, I don't know, whether we just keep bringing him off the bench until the end of the season. Then it's a tricky one with Rashford. He's shown he hasn't shown his best, like the game against Leicester. I was like, he came on like I remember De Gea like hitting a few long balls, like going route one, but Rashford was like looking at the ball coming down, and he wouldn't go up for the head, and I was like, I know if he'd have gone up for it, he didn't have anybody to head it onto because there was nobody in front of him, but at least go up and challenge for it. But and I just think it's now a question whether does Rashford have that fire now to battle back from this bad run of form. It's like we signed Jadon Sancho and everybody thought he'd be on the right wing, but Sancho has been better on the left wing, so which is where Rashford plays. But this is another challenge for Rashford. But I just think with Rashford, his relationship with United is a bit uneasy at the moment. And I mean, United have to take some of the blame as well for it. But this is a time when his form should be blossoming. But hopefully, with the new manager on the way, whoever that may be, it could be the turning point, and we see the very best of Rashford again.
Yeah, Andrew, you said something that Stu kind of mentioned as well about him still not reaching his peak. What do you think his peak and his level actually is? You know, have we maybe just built up our hopes a little bit too much, and we feel that maybe do we feel a little bit let down by that, or are we kind of overhyping him? I can see Neil shaking his head. Neil, I'll bring you in shortly. Andrew, do you want to answer that one first?
I don't know whether obviously when he burst onto the scene, it was like, oh, with those goals in the Europa League and then following it with Arsenal. But he's scored in his career so far with 93 goals. And just, I know Wayne Rooney made some of those comments after an after dinner speaking event saying, oh, Rashford needs to get his head out of his backside and just start scoring again. But it's easy said than done. So it's like what's the phrase? Form is temporary and class is permanent. But I think with so much upheaval at United at the moment, we need that stability now, and that new manager coming in and giving Rashford assurances that his future still lies with us, and he can, like Rooney says, he wants to see Rashford go on and break that record of his. So I think, stability is the key with Rashford at the minute. So we'll have to see if he gets that or not.
Go on there, mate.
I think this possibly goes back to he shouldn't have gone to the Euros because he was clearly injured after the back end of last season. I think we'd had a show. There's not many players that came immediately out of the Euros that started the season well. Probably Declan Rice. That was about it. Pickford was poor. Shaw was poor. Maguire's been poor. Stones in and out the side at Man City. Trippier injured all over the place. Was out the side at Madrid. So most of the players, Mount's had a poor season. Kane started poorly. You could go through the whole team. Phillips been injured. So, you look at the England team that finished the Euros last year, there's maybe one or two of them who are in form, and there's maybe another couple who are coming back to form, and there's a lot of them out of form and injured. And Rashford to me is in that bunch. And I think the toxic atmosphere that has been created on social media, for me, in my opinion, Rashford gets as long as he wants away from the game, if he wants to be away from the game. But the toxic atmosphere that you see, the amount of abuse that a 24-year-old bloke's getting, is just ridiculous from his own fans. I mean, be careful what you wish for, United fans. He might turn around and say, "I'm out of here. I'm off. I'll go." Barcelona. Crazier things have happened. A foreign club could come in from him. I mean, his girlfriend's Italian. So the European lifestyle, I don't think would be a massive stretch for him. He could up sticks and go. And the way our club's performing, and we're looking at 7th or 8th in the Premiership. At the moment, he might turn around and say, "Right, I've had it. I've had all this abuse off you lot, all these people, thousands of people giving him stick." It wasn't that long ago that he got clapped at Liverpool for all the stuff he'd done to feed the Scouse kids. And now he's getting he's getting stick off his own fans on social media. So I think we have to, for me, I'd give him as long as he wants. I'm surprised. I mean, we don't know what goes on in the background. None of us do. There's, as Ferguson got involved, as Bobby Charlton got involved, as someone put her arm around him. He's clearly not fit, and he came out of the Euros worse state than when he went into the Euros, and then he never got fit in the start of the season. And there's a lot of pressure on him to score the goals to get United up there. And by the way, if you want to see a striker who doesn't jump for a ball from De Gea, watch Ronaldo the next time you see him play up front. You couldn't get a Daily Mail under his feet the way he jumps, unless it's a corner and he's gonna score a goal. But just another point, by the way. I'm back.
just sticking with yourself there, Neil. You said a couple of things. Obviously, social media is massive. I completely get that. How much do you think that has played an impact? Because obviously it's not just fans, but obviously the media will get wind of what the fans are saying. Then if the media know that they're going to get hits on their webpage or sell newspapers, and they'll talk about it, so then it'll get blown up even more. Then it gets mentioned at press conferences, and then word will get back to the dressing room, won't it? So even if Rashford's not actually on social media himself, word's going to get around that squad about what the fans are saying, isn't it?
He's on social media probably. I mean, he does an advert for Google, for God's sake, which I've just watched over the top of this. So he's doing an advert for Google. He's probably one of the highest profile footballers in the country at the moment and mostly for the stuff he's done off the pitch. And let's be honest, he'll get you know, the way he's going, he'll get knighted the way he's helping bringing meals to the kids. Easy for me to say there, but he's constantly on social media, whether he likes it or not. He's mentioned on social media as much as any other footballer. Plus, he plays for Manchester United. And, you know, yes, the club's not doing great, but we're still a massive club. And the social media presence is still massive. And he's the point of it. He's right at the point of it.
John's in the comments. He's agreeing with a lot of what we're saying here. Fred, let me just bring the question back to you. You know, what would you do if you was Marcus Rashford right now?
I think you need to go back to the basics. He's clearly, I mean, I agree with a lot of what Neil's just said. He's clearly not fit. You know, the Euros did him no good. I think one of the biggest mistakes that Ollie made last season was just playing him through the ground. He had a severe back injury and he just continued to play. And then on the back of the Euros, obviously missing a penalty in the final in the manner he did would do his mental state no good. And I think I read somewhere recently that he's either the top or top two most criticised players on social media. So and that's globally. So he's clearly got a large weight on his shoulders, and it's showing in his performances. But he needs to go back to basics. I mean, unfortunately, he's just getting everything wrong. And the bare minimum you can do on the football pitch is, you know, just show effort and motivation. You know, chase down balls. Even if things aren't going with you know, your way with the ball, you can still, without the ball, you know, show effort and motivation that way. And he's not showing it, unfortunately. I mean, there's been instances where, you know, second balls have happened, and he just stood there ball watching. And he just, you know, there's only so much you can say that, okay, he's injured or it's a World Cup hangover. You know, we're coming up to a year now on that. I think like Neil said, he just needs a break out of the team. He needs a pre-season. He needs the summer off. I'm glad, you know, in a way for his sake that the World Cup, I mean, I doubt he'd make the squad, but it's probably a good thing that it's in the winter this year, so we can have a full summer, a full pre-season. And hopefully the new manager recognises that, because there's a player in there and he clearly loves the club. You know, as Andrew said, he's been here the vast majority of his life. I just think he needs to get his priorities right. When I say that, I don't mean his off the field work. That's fantastic. When I say priorities, I mean with the ball, work on his weaknesses, discover what position he actually wants to play and what his best position is. You know, we can't keep shifting left, right, striker. And challenge that way, because he should be, you know, approaching his peak years, and he's had ample chances in terms of playing time, but he just completely stagnated. And I think Ralph's right to leave him out of the squad, because you can't really reward those type of performances. And just quickly touching on what Stu mentioned earlier, whether it could be potentially a cultural issue at the club. I mean, we all know under the Sir Alex days, you know, there's a picture of Messi cleaning the boots in the youth changer rooms. You know, the players were only allowed black boots. I think we've just swung away from that in the last 10 years, you know, rewarding lavish contracts to these teenagers. No wonder their priorities are all wrong. I think we just need to instill that football is first and foremost. And yeah, back to basics. I can't emphasise that enough.
Yeah, just look, I agree with everything the lads have said. All their views are right. I was just offering a different version, I guess, of what we're all saying. We're all saying the same thing, but slightly differently. One thing I will say is it's quite sad. That's the overriding fact for me. It's quite sad to see where he is now. But when you look at other players such as Jesse Lingard as an example, he's never ever kicked on, and he's another one, with the lavish lifestyle and has forgotten what it's like, or forgotten the need and the want to be a footballer. I'm 52 years old and I can't wait to be at footy in 40 minutes. I'm really looking forward to it, and it's ridiculous. And I don't get, it's a long time since I've been paid, a long time for playing, and I just find it sad. But Neil will know this. It's nothing new. Jermaine Pennant was a fabulous footballer when he was a youngster. Look at where he is now. Danny Cadamartri of Everton. Look where he is now. There's loads of these types of examples of footballers, and Rashford is really in danger of becoming the next Manchester United Ravel Morrison. I mean, it's just
who was the kid at Everton, Stu? The fox in the box.
Cadamartri.
No, the fox in the box.
Oh,
the one with the big ears. One with the big ears.
Hold on.
Went to Arsenal.
Jefferson. No, not Jefferson.
Jeffers.
No.
Francis
Jeffers. Another one.
What a star! What a star he could have been.
Yeah, and that's my worry for Rashford. And so, this is where you rely on your social circle to help you, in my humble opinion. And so, anyway, thanks for the feedback, lads. That was good.
Well, from one youngster to another youngster, I'm not talking about Andrew, but it's Andrew's topic. James Garner. Do you want to introduce this one, Andrew?
Yeah, just about James Garner in possibly making it into the first team next season. I mean, let's say, and his impact in the future. I mean, let's say he's currently on loan at Forest, and let's say it's coming to now the business end of the season, and his loan will be coming to an end, and now he'll be coming back to United. And I mean, the last couple of summers in pre-season, he's had like minimal role in pre-season, but I'm just thinking maybe now is the time where he might just get his chance to, make an impact on the first team. I mean, obviously a new manager coming in, he'll be assessed at close quarters before a decision's made whether he's kept or he's actually moves on permanently. But I just feel like with James Garner, I feel like it's now or never for him, because you can only have so many loan moves away from United, and he can benefit from it. I mean, like, I've seen a few of his performances for Forest. I think the one against Liverpool in the FA Cup, he wasn't overawed by it. He was like probably one of the best good players on the pitch. But I just feel like if he's United get him back and then put him in the Championship again on loan, I just feel like it's a bit of a waste for him. I mean, it's just like there's only so much experience you can get from the Championship. I just think as being reported, Paul Pogba looks like he's well and truly out the exit door now, and with Matic now, I'd say entering the twilight years of his career. I mean, it could be now the perfect opportunity for Garner to get integrated to the first team. I'm not saying he needs to start every week, but it's just whether he come in and out, and then just so he can then work up to be an integral part of United's future. But I just think to the rest of you, do you think he will be given that chance, or is it now? Do you think United might just move him on in the summer? Because I just don't think another loan's going to benefit James Garner. I just think I wouldn't want to let deny a player any playing time. So I just think, as Fergie once said, is like go out there and play, whether it's with us or with another club. So it'd be interesting to see what the others think on Garner at the minute.
Well, I like Garner. Really good friend of mine's a Forest season ticket holder, and he's been absolutely raving about him. And I must admit, the times that I've seen him play, I think he's been excellent. My only worry is he'll need a summer of the weights. He'll need to bulk up a bit. He's not quite big enough, I don't think, or strong enough for the Premier League yet. Now, people will say, well, that's rubbish. He's playing in the Championship. It's, and he's survived. That's a kickers league. It's not anywhere near as bad as it used to be in terms of aggression, the Championship. If he's playing in League One and League Two, you're talking about a different level of football, completely different story. But I do like him. I like his vision. He's got an engine. Very, very good box-to-box player. Very good box-to-box player. Can pick a pass, can score a goal, got a strike on him. He's he's almost perfect to what we need. But it's going to be the only issue you're going to have with somebody like Garner, personnel you put aside him. If you put him in a side with Pogba and Bruno, I'm speaking hypothetically here, he's going to flounder. He's never going to flourish because all the onus will be onto him because Pogba's lazy, as we know. And Bruno, at this point in time, isn't pulling up any trees whatsoever. He's panicking on the ball again. However, if you were to put him inside, I don't know, one of my favourite defensive midfielders, a Marcel Brozovic, you would then see him flourish. So the key to our development, the key to our squad balance, the key to what our new manager is going to do or wants to do will be personnel surrounding personnel, if that makes sense. So it's getting the right players to complement each other because right now we don't have that. And that's my only worry. If whoever the new manager comes in and he's not given this budget and we're having to stick with the majority of our squad, I don't think it will benefit James.
Yeah, go on now, mate.
Well, Stuart's right. He's absolutely right. He hasn't got the physicality for the Premier League. And yet, if you sold James Garner, how much do you think he's worth? He ain't worth 40 million. He ain't worth 30 million. He's probably going to end up going out on loan again because he just hasn't got the physicality. He's had 2 or 3 consecutive managers now at United who've looked at him, and Stuart's right. He can pick a pass. He's got great vision. He's got all of that. He looks a real good player in the Championship. And I think, well, I'm pretty certain that's his level. I think if Forest come up, I think he'll sign for Forest. I wouldn't be surprised if Forest say, right, okay. And there's a good chance Forest come up. I mean, Steve Cooper's done, talk about manager of the year. Gee, dearie mate, what a job he's done at Forest. But there's a good chance that if Forest come up, you wouldn't be surprised if they try and make an offer. And with all the turmoil at United might just turn around and say, well, we'll have the money in the kitty because we haven't got Champions League football. So we'll just take the money and run. Right? I don't see... If James Garner was on the open market, would you be happy if United signed him now? If we were linked, if Pogba's out the door and he should have gone last year, they should never have re-signed him. But if James Garner was playing for Nottingham Forest and United were linked with him in the gossip columns, I reckon we'd have a show going, where's United's ambition? We should be dining at the top table, etc., etc. And that's if you flip it on its head. And I think that's the problem James Garner's had. He's had too many loans. Yeah, he can do all that sort of stuff. He can pick a pass, but he just hasn't got the physicality. He looked good against Liverpool. And every time I've seen him play for Forest, he's always done 1 or 2 things. And you think, yeah, this kid's a decent player, but he's at the Championship level. It wasn't against Liverpool's, main midfield, to be brutally honest. And could he do it week in and week out? But I reckon if we sold him, we'd probably 10 million, 12 million quid, and Forest will buy him. If he's the answer, then I want to know what the hell the question is.
Well, Neil, that's a good way of looking at it. And Fred, just give me 2 seconds, but I just want to just ask Neil this question then. Do you think that we've let him down in any way? Or do you think that that's his potential and that's it? Or is there anything more that we could have done for him?
No, I mean, you some genetically, and, Stuart and I, or probably all of us have sat here and we all went to school with players and you looked at them and you thought, he's going to be a player, he's going to be a player. And then suddenly they don't grow, they don't put weight on, they don't bulk up. And then they just get run over, because all footballers are now bigger athletes, bigger, stronger guys. we've all done it. There's no way I'd be watching this show. I went to school with a kid called Richard Tallis. He had more talent than any footballer I'd ever seen. And he was unbelievable. Funnily enough, I saw a kid play for Forest years and years ago. Here's one for your friend, Stuart. A kid called Alan Slaughter. Played for Nottingham Forest youth team in the early to mid 80s. One of the best footballers, one of the best youth footballers I've ever seen in my life. Could do the lot. He was actually a trialist at United, signed for Forest, dropped off the face of the earth, had the lot. And we see that all the time. Now, Garner could have been a superstar, a wonder kid, but he just hasn't bulked up enough. He hasn't got the physicality, and he's not the answer to United's midfield. We've got players who can pick a pass. We need someone to stop people running in behind us and killing us to death.
Fed, what are your thoughts on this one?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? It's all very hypothetical. I would have liked to have seen Garner have gone to a Premier League team this season. I think it was mentioned in one of the comments. I think he was linked with Brighton in the summer for loan move, but we obviously opted to send him back to Forest. So it's difficult to gauge, isn't it, whether he can do it in the Premier League. But I think that the gap between the Championship and the Premier League in recent years has really narrowed, and actually. I think that there's been a big move away from the physicality approach of English football as well. Is a lot more focus on can he play? Obviously you do need a minimum level of physicality, but it all depends on the style of play, doesn't it? In that regard, I think he's been doing brilliantly at Forest, hasn't he? I mean, he's with the ball. He's got a great set piece on him. The amount of corners he's taken, God, we could have done with him in our team this season on that alone. And there's definitely going to be a spot. There's a few midfielders that are potentially leaving in Matic, Pogba, and we're not going to sign a flurry in the summer window. So there's definitely could potentially be a spot for him if the new manager deems it be. He's only 21 as well. He's going to develop physically. He's going to develop technically. In my opinion, give him a pre-season and decide in the summer. He could actually save quite a bit of money in that. Instead of spending 20-30 million on a squad player midfielder, which we don't need. We need first teamers. He could surprise us all. So you never know. It would. I think if Forest do get promoted, which they could well do. I think he'll stay there for another season, and then that'll give us more time to assess if he can cut it in the Prem. But he's not the type of player we need, as Neil said, at this current moment in time. We need someone who's a bit more defensively astute. Very good on the ball, but I haven't seen that side of his game too much at Forest. So I don't think he walks into the squad. And the other thing to consider is our current midfielders, McTominay, Fred, etc., they shouldn't be starting midfielders. They should be squad players. Is he a big upgrade on those two at this current moment? I don't think so. So with Garner, it's all about potential and the pathway he has to fulfill that. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if we next year saw him loaned out again and potentially then sold in the next few years. But hopefully he surprises all of us.
Yeah, I was going to say, just to add my final point on that, I just think, with Garner, whatever United decide to do with him, I mean, he could be an exciting addition back to the squad, but it's a risk and it's a gamble trying to, how we solve that midfield problem. I mean, Garner's contract, I think, ends in a couple of years' time, so there's still time to see how his career will pan out at United, but I'm just thinking maybe if we had to put him out, if United decide to put him out on loan, it'd have to be at a Premier League club because that would be like the final test for him. But, he can have that consistency and impressive performances and it would show how competent Garner is. But I think there's something with now the loan restrictions. I think some things have been changed about them. So United might have to make a decision on what to do about that. So, and also Garner might become impatient as well and decide, well, I need to leave and seek pastures new. But I agree with the others, about his points. Well, his passing ability, but also the weakness of his physical stature. So it'll be interesting to see how what United decide to do, and whether his career will, end up being at United or somewhere else, like maybe Forest or even a Premier League team. But just have to see.
Well, that links in nicely with Fed's topic, obviously talking about a new manager. So, Fed, do you want to bring up your topic?
Yeah, and obviously it seems like there's been big developments in the past hour that people are reporting that we're very close to appointing Ten Hag. So quite very even more topical this point I'm going to make. But I keep having this conversation with my friends in that I've got a bit of a bleak outlook with United at the moment. So I actually think that whoever we appoint, unless things change structurally at the club, it doesn't actually matter what manager we're going to appoint. I think there's a big hope, and hope being the underlying factor here, that Ten Hag's just going to act as the Messiah, and we're going to, he's going to come in, maybe after a year or two, we're going to start, winning trophies left, right, and centre like the old days. I just think, unless there's a top-down radical reform at the club, we could have Pep and Klopp, who unfortunately difficult to argue against them being the two best coaches in the world at the moment. We could get those two, and I just don't think they would succeed at us at all. We've just got one. I think we're one of the worst run clubs, probably one of the worst big clubs in world football. Our recruitment has just been abysmal, and Ten Hag himself is notoriously claimed that he wouldn't have the success that he's experienced at Ajax if it weren't for the collaboration with Mark Overmars, Edwin van der Sar, building a squad of players for him to actually work with. And I think that's been one of the biggest issues, post Sir Alex Ferguson, our recruitment. And at the end of the day, we've still got Matt Judge is going to be our chief negotiator. Yes, Ed Woodward's gone, and thank God. But Richard Arnold's taken over. He's been at the club for the same duration, and he hasn't been sitting idly. He's been had a big part in the decision-making process. John Murtough's also been at the club. I appreciate he's in this new role now, so it's going to be interesting to see how that develops. But the most exciting move the move that got me excited the most recently was the Rangnick moving upstairs move, because we evidently haven't got footballing people there. And now we're reading reports in the last few weeks that he's only going to be working days in a month. Now, we don't know what's true and what's not. We don't know what he's going to do. They've been very hush-hush, the club, about what his role's actually going to be. But it wouldn't surprise me. We are just a PR machine. It's easy to appoint him last year saying, yes, this guy's going to go into the high positions. He's got the experience. But equally now, people, the club is just. I'm assuming the club just think people are going to forget that and easily just quash him and go with the tried and tested, which evidently hasn't worked. So I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is, do the guys here, do they think that, or what effect do they think Ten Hag's actually going to have, and in what time frame will he see success? And would he be able to see that success even with the same infrastructure that we have? Or do they think that Richard Arnold is going to be polar opposite to Ed Woodward, and actually, we're going to start working like a football club should do?
Neil, do you want to go first on this one, mate?
Well, you got to feel sorry for the next guy that comes in after the shit show that we've become over the last 3 or 4 years. Because I've got to be honest. Now, I'm an old sod, even older than Stuart, and I'm still yet to be convinced by what the hell Ten Hag's done to warrant getting the job of turning around the bloody the club. Ten Hag's biggest, as far as I can see, Ten Hag's biggest game, he lost to Pochettino. That's the biggest game he's had in his club career, and he lost to Pochettino. I know there's all the negatives about Poch, but I'm still yet to be convinced whether Ten Hag's the answer. And yes, he likes the structure. So what the hell is he? What the hell is he doing wanting to come to our club? You got to question anybody's ambition if they want to come to our club, because nothing's going to change. All they've done is it's like moving the deck chairs around on the Titanic. We know how this is going to end. We know this is going to end, people, unless the club has a complete restructure. And I think, in a weird way, if I don't know if any of you watch the NFL, they have a general manager, and he picks and they pick the whole system. They're one person at the top. The owner sitting, and this is the thing. They did it with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They picked a top general manager and they let him run the club. I don't understand why they haven't done exactly the same thing at United, because they've already got the blueprint. They've had the blueprint for years. They've won 2 Super Bowls in all the time they've had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I don't understand what's going on with the structure. You could bring in, as you said, Fred, you could bring in Klopp, Guardiola, even Luis Enrique, which I think if the World Cup wasn't in November, I think he'd definitely be in with a shout of getting the job. But why would they want to come to the club the way it's structured? And what is it that Ten Hag's done? I asked someone on Twitter the other day, why is it that you like Ten Hag as much? And I just asked I asked a simple question, and all I got was, well, I just like him, end of. And I thought, well, that's it then. You know, well, there you go. So, well, I like him. Yeah, well, you know, sometimes I'm just utterly speechless by the way this is done. And I wish Ferguson would step up. He's still at the club. He's still getting a wage off the club, and we don't need anything from his mouth. And let's forget. You can forget about United's DNA. Oh, Everton have got a penalty, I think. You can forget about United's DNA and all that sort of stuff. That's gone. The club is going to have to be completely rebuilt. And, the DNA's gone, and the Ferguson days, that's in the past. I mean, this bleeds into sort of my subject matter about there's a huge reality check coming for this club. And I'm not sure any of the managers that we're linked with are in a position to stop it happening.
Stu, I mean, I agree with what Neil and Fred said. I think obviously the issue is way beyond just one person and a manager. But let's just play devil's advocate for a second here. And, they introduced a new structure, a fair few months ago now when Darren Fletcher obviously came in and there was a bit of a reshuffle. We had a good transfer window on paper, bringing in Sancho, Varane. We was happy with this. Ronaldo came back. Is a new manager just a final piece?
Well, it's a piece, isn't it? It's not the final piece. I mean, it's hard to argue with what the lads are saying. I don't mind Ten Hag. I think Neil's, you're leaning more towards Pochettino, don't you, fella? I think. Is that right? Yeah. I don't mind Ten Hag for the simple reason I like how they play. He attacks and defends in the pendulum style. So they attack as a unit and defend as a unit, and I do quite like that. It's how I was taught to play football, so I suppose I can see the way that he does that. I can see why people are a little bit underwhelmed by Ten Hag because of he's only ever worked, as far as I know, in Holland, and the structure he's got behind him at Ajax is, well, I think we all know just how good that is. In terms of how Ten Hag's got to go about it, he's got to disassociate himself, if he can, with the board. And if he is going to be the man, you would hope that he's had the balls to negotiate and make demands of exactly how he wants it to work. And the structure that he wants to put in, he must get pen to paper, because if he can't get that structure and he doesn't have that, then he can walk away. So I would hope that he's conducted a interview of the club, as well as the club interviewing him, to make sure that he's right and that he's happy with the structure. I very much doubt whatever is signed will get agreed. Will happen over the 3 or 4 years that he needs. But I will say this: if he does come on board, or Pochettino comes on board, or whoever, you've got to give them 5 years. You have to give them 5 years. You can't ponce about with 1 or 2 years anymore. Those days are gone. See, Neil thinks 10. Yeah, you could well be right, but you have to make sure that you support this guy. Now, I heard today that Austria are looking to get hold of But Rangnick. That's what I've heard today. I don't know how true that is, but that's what I've heard. So I just hope that whatever we do it for the right reasons. I fear not. I feel like Neil and I feel like Freddie that it's not going to matter until the Glazers go. But here's another issue we're all going to have to deal with. If Chelsea is sold for £3 billion, you can forget United being sold for less than £5. And who's going to just come out and take £1 billion out the air? And that's something we've got to consider.
Go on, Neil.
I'll get a consortium together. Stu will be the director of football, and I'll just be Billy Big Spuds in the chairman's room.
Yeah, but it is going to be a problem for us if Chelsea do go for $3 billion. We've got to be realistic. It's going to be an issue for us, and we have to consider that as well.
And we just finish up with yourself before we move back onto Neil's topic. Well, I'll just bring this question in, and you can just answer this one here. Question is, would the club back him? We have doubts, but we can hope. What's your thoughts on that one, mate?
I think we have to back him because it's like I say, we've got to think long term. We can't be like short term. And I just think like in recent years we sort of lacked a style of play. And I'm not saying it was always the case like under Ollie, but it feels like sometimes we haven't had a set way of playing since Fergie retired. And I know Ollie used to like to play the counter-attacking football, but certainly when we come up against lower opposition teams is where we really struggled and we couldn't control games. Whereas there's being reported now that Ten Hag seems to be on the way, and from what I read about him, he seems to have a distinctive style, but it might be slightly different to what United have been used to. But also he'll change like his tactics depending on the opposition. Whereas I think he likes to play like either a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1 or even a 3-4-3 in the game. So it's just Ten Hag will bring the attacking football, as you can see from like Ajax. I remember seeing the game in the Champions League against Borussia Dortmund where Ajax just all over them and just destroyed them. And I thought you wouldn't think Dortmund would be handled like that. And also, I think he'd work well for like the likes of Rashford and Jadon Sancho. You could take their games to another level because you see with Ajax players like Tadic and Anthony as well. They've been brilliant from what I've reading as well, and they've been helping their striker Haller as well. And he scored about 10 Champions League goals so far. So is he going to solve all the? I say it goes from top to bottom. Like I say, there's a lot of problems above as well. It's just we've got to have that stability and cohesion. I know Richard Arnold's coming now and he's taken over from Ed Woodward, and they're saying he's going to delegate to people that have the footballing knowledge. He's not going to, as Ed Woodward was being reported, he was like involved in everything. So I sort of think Richard Arnold will like delegate to those who have more knowledge as well. But I say if Ten Hag did come in, I wouldn't be surprised if some Ajax players came with him as well because they'll probably still want to work with him. But on the case of Poch as well, yes, he's familiar with the Premier League. We all know what he's about. But I think Jamie Redknapp said the other night he's a serial underachiever. The amount of trophies he could have won, he's not done it. I mean, okay, he's going to win the French League, but the French League is not the Premier League. So I'm just like, with like Tottenham, he never quite took them to that next level. Okay, you could argue that Daniel Levy, when Pochettino knew that squad needed a refreshing, Daniel Levy went, no, I'm not going to give you any money at all. But I just think with United, whoever comes in as manager, they're going to have to back him. And it's just how much do we give that new manager? Because we can't keep chucking money up at the wall and going, well, let's hope it sticks. But let's say it's going to be a big summer for United in all aspects.
Definitely, yeah. And Stuart, I know you need to shoot off now and play a bit of
Sorry,
football.
guys.
No, thank you for joining us. We'll catch you again very soon.
Pleasure. See you later, lads.
Thank you, Stuart.
Yeah.
Ta-da, guys. Ta-da.
Neil, you had your topic lined up before you even agreed to get you on the show, I think.
Hang on. Can I just have a... If we're listening to what Jamie Redknapp says about our club, then we are really in the shit, by the way. If we're taking anything on board from that clueless moron who doesn't seem to know his arse from his elbow and spent most of his life just... Well, let's not, because, that's been covered. But seriously, I ain't worried about what Jamie Redknapp says about anything to do with our club or Paul Merson or, after the last 24 hours, Matthew Le Tissier, because he seems as nutty as a fruitcake, my friend. But anyway, moving on.
Yeah, go on, Neil. Your topic, mate.
Right. So my topic is reality check. Now, I think with what's happened this season and what's potentially going to happen for the next few seasons, I think this season could be a bit of a reality check, and because we could get 5 years of this sort of, dare I say it, mid-table mediocrity, where we're battling, where our rivals suddenly become Villa, Wolves, yeah, exactly, teams like that, and we're sort of all going, cool, wasn't it good when we used to play in the Champions League and all that sort of stuff. Now, I remember, and it's a shame Stuart's had to go, but I remember before Ferguson took over and we were completely in the doldrums, massively in the doldrums was this club. Ferguson took over, ripped the club apart and won nothing for, I can't remember, it must have been 5 or 6 years before, it was quite a few years before Ferguson won anything and the fans were calling for his head. We're going to go through all that again. We're definitely going to go through it again. We're going to start throwing crazy contracts around, which we did in the 80s. We give Atkinson loads of money, which he pissed up the wall. And we're potentially in for pretty much that again now. Because if we get this one wrong, we get this appointment. I mean, Rooney was right the other day. Absolutely right. If we get this appointment wrong, we're 15 years away. We're 15 years away from getting it right, because whoever it is, Ten Hag, Pochettino, whoever it is, even in some crazy world, whether it's someone like Rooney, I'd rather it was Rooney and they said, right, you got 10 years, here's a 10-year contract, knows the club. But there's a massive reality check coming for this club and this fan base, and you better strap yourselves in, because this could be a horrific end to the season and a horrific summer with, all these players that we were linked to 2 or 3 years ago. They're going to be pipe dreams. They ain't even going to be looking at United, because we can't offer them anything at all other than a big fat wage. And the only reason they're going to come to our club is just to pad out their pensions, which is what happened with a lot of players in the 80s. We never we didn't get players at the best. We have spent years spending terrible amounts of money on a weekly basis on utter dross. And you look at Bruno getting what's he got, 240 grand a week. He's about the only, and he's getting flogged to death, by the way. Consecutive managers are just absolutely flogging that guy to death. Ollie did it with him, Rangnick did it with him. And on Rangnick, I wouldn't be bothered if he did go to this Austrian job, because he ain't pulled up many trees since he took over, by the way. And he was the Messiah. Now we've got another Messiah coming in, Ten Hag, or whoever it is. There's going to be an enormous reality check coming for this fan base. Unfortunately, I'm old enough. I've lived through one before, and I have a feeling we're going to go through one again, and it's going to be proper messy.
Well, it kind of just answered what I was just about to ask you there, Neil. Like, will it get better? Will it get worse before it gets better in regards to league position? Because you look at some of our rivals; they're getting better. You got your top three, as in like City, Liverpool, Chelsea. You can see them staying there for quite a while. You can see Tottenham obviously.
You can forget getting a new stadium if the club's mid-table mediocrity. You can forget getting a new stadium. Not a chance. Which is what the club needs. Either complete and knock Old Trafford down, start again on the same spot, or a brand new stadium just in the car park sort of thing. But you can forget that if this club goes to mid-table mediocrity. I tell you what, if you think you're moaning this year, put a mark in this show and then roll it forward 12 months and let's see where we are. Because I'd be really interested to see the difference between it. What's the date today? So 6th of April, 2022. Roll it forward 12 months, and let's see where we are. And I'd be very surprised if we're in a better place.
Connor, I know you're in the
that
comments. I think Connor's still in the comments. If you are, Connor, let's just clip that and then we'll save it and we'll repost it, because I probably agree with you to some point, unless if the new manager does really hit the ground running, and which is very hard to do in the Premier League these days. You could absolutely be right, and it does kind of link.
He loses.
Go on, sorry.
John, the new manager comes in, whoever it is. He loses 6 out of the first 10 games. The toxic fan base will be calling for his head.
Yeah.
That's a fact. That's an absolute guaranteed, nailed on, raving certainty. As much as night follows day, loses 6 out of the first 10 games, fan base will be calling for his head.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting all emotional.
It kind of links into your topic, doesn't it? No matter what manager we bring in, it's going to be very tough. But what are your thoughts on those comments there about potentially getting worse before it gets better, and gradually slipping down?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. It links in very nice to what I mentioned earlier. But it's really not good to hear, is it? And it could well get a lot worse, and that's the thing. It's all cyclical, isn't it? Look at Liverpool. They would never have thought that they would have taken 30 years to win the league again. And it seems like history's not, it's repeating itself in the sense that, Ferguson came, he completely galvanised the club. He changed, things in the way things are football-wise in this country. The new managers, unfortunately, got to play against the two best teams in the world in the league. He's got to compete against them. That's one issue. The other issue is he's got to do it with these owners. And as Stu mentioned before he left, they're not going anywhere anytime soon, unfortunately. So it's effectively like the manager has one arm tied behind his back, or whoever's coming in the near future, whether that be playing staff or non-playing staff. I think it pains me to say this, but we need to take a leaf out of Arsenal's book, build around youth. We're not going to challenge. I personally can't see us challenging or winning anything in the next few years. We need to strip back things completely, reform the club radically from top to bottom. There's an awful culture set at the moment whereby we're rewarding mediocrity. We've got the highest wage bill in world football, one of, and we've got one of the most bang average squads. So it is worrying, and I think the problem is with our fan base is we've been spoilt the past 25 years by, probably one of the best managers ever, if not the best. So it's going to be a hard one. I don't think we're going to see success for a long time. We're going to have 10, potentially up to 10 players leaving this summer alone. And with our record of buying in players, we can't afford to just get 2 or 3 in each summer window. The club have to back the new manager, and there has to be a long-term plan in place. And as Neil said, 5+ years, someone has to come in, whether it be the person above the manager or the manager himself. There has to be stability in that, a clear vision set out, and that clear vision adhered to. And whether there's going to be dips in it, but you've just got to be resilient and stick with it, because as long as you get the right person, and that's the problem. Well, my most sort of biggest criticism of the club is they don't get the right people in at the top level, as I mentioned earlier. But they need to get the best in class personnel in, something that Gary Neville always mentions. Instill all your hope in them, trust them to make the best decisions of the club, and stick to it. And the other thing is, you can't. One window we're going to spend if we don't get Champions League, we get Champions League, then strip it all back, take our spending. We don't have to pay Adidas a penalty fee for not getting Champions League 2 years in a row. We can't have that volatility. Unfortunately, the game has changed. We need stability in terms of spending. We need stability in terms of backing the manager. And when I say backing, I don't mean gross spending more than all the other clubs. I mean buying first or second targets in that window. We can't afford to spend a year and a half, trying to buy Harry Maguire, and in that time, we get a new manager, and then it's the old manager sign. We need to get away from that mentality, and we need to focus on football again. We just swung so far towards the commercialism side, signing attackers who generate clicks. Ronaldo's of the world. We just need to get our priorities right as a club, and unfortunately, the Glazers aren't going anywhere. But we have to hope that Richard Arnold is nothing like Ed Woodward. Like Andrew said, he actually puts his trust in the football making or the football decision makers at the club, and it's all about hope. We just have to see with time how things play out. But the thing is, we have to remember it is cyclical. It's not going to be forever, but it's just how resilient we can be.
Andrew, Fed used the word stability there. That's one of my favourite words as well. I think to be successful, you need to be stable. Not just in football, but in a lot of things. Another word that I use that we haven't used on the show tonight, but discipline. I think we need discipline in the club as well. Do you think that stability and discipline is like the main thing that we need in this club to start moving it forwards, or has it gone beyond that?
I think that's what we desperately need: stability and consistency. Fred just said hope as well, because it's the hope that kills. You just think United will, as bad as it is getting, you hope it gets better. I just think this season our limitations have been laid bare at every front, and I feel like United are at a watershed moment. There's so many issues to be dealt with. You think where to start? Obviously, getting a manager in that will be backed, and also the recruitment as well. Since Fergie left, we spent over £1 billion in players, and in which time 4 managers have permanent managers have come and gone. Some players that have arrived have been successful. Others have failed to live up to the expectation. And I think when the summer transfer window open, and whoever the manager is, we've got to be at the forefront of getting the right players who can get us back to the highest level. The issue with the midfield, we've been saying this for years, that it needs to be fixed, and it hasn't. So that'll be a key area in the summer. And also the players that we got, are they good enough? Obviously some players have been out of form, and some players, their contracts are running out. But it feels like it's going to be a long road back to the top. And I think, was it De Gea, after our defeat against Atletico Madrid, he just summed up perfectly where United were, and he just said, I've been here for many years, I love the club. He said the fans have been amazing in a difficult season, and he says, I just don't know when this club is going to get back to the top, and we're going to be fighting a big thing. So I think Fergie also once said, for United to be successful off the pitch, which, the Glazers, taking all the money. Well, if you want to be successful off the pitch, you need to be successful on it. Well, I'm just thinking this season's just been literally a washout. And it could get, I think not getting top 4 would probably just be the icing on the cake, and landing up in the Europa League, or God forbid the Conference League, and doing the Thursday, Sunday games, which... Look, yeah, it's nice to have some European games, but I'm not a fan of the Thursday, Sunday, games. But it's one of, the stability and consistency is the key thing at the moment, and I'm just hoping it doesn't get even worse. I just think, with this, I think like the Leicester game, I just think, it was just so flat in every aspect, from the players, even us fans are in the stadium. It's like, United weren't giving us anything to, get us going and get behind them. It's just like, I think we're just not, we're not angry we're not angry anymore at them. We're just disappointed. That's like, we feel like we've got to get that fight back, and start, say it might take a couple of years. It might take, I don't know, as Neil said, it could be taking 10 years, but at least we see that progress every season. Like, we're going to get back to the top. So, it took Fergie literally 5 years before he won his first trophy. So, it's just, football's a results-based business now. Can we afford to wait? I don't know.
Go on, Neil, mate.
Right, couple of things. First one, John said, I didn't say we'll lose the first six out of the first 10 games next season. I said if we lose 6 out of the first 10 games. So I know John Commode is sitting at home with a can of Boddingtons and he's got his hand down his jogging bottoms because his missus is living in Pittsburgh and he's watching the Burnley-Everton game and he's watching us at the same time. But anyway, John, concentrate. Anyway, the answer to every single question about United, the answer to every single question, what the club lacks: passion. Passion from the board, passion from the management structure, passion from the manager, passion from the players, passion, the wrong passion from the fans. That's the problem with this club. Whoever comes in, they've got to get the passion back into this club because that's what we're built on. And if we lose that, it's going to be really, really hard to get it back. And not misguided passion. I mean, genuine, proper passion for this club. Cup final day passion. That's what I mean.
Yeah, I totally
really
agree.
enjoyed tonight's show. I have got one more question that I want to ask because we have gone off the 1 hour mark. Oh, go on, sorry, Fred. I think my internet's played up as well. So just jump in.
That's right. I was just saying. I agree with Neil. The words. I think the appropriate word is culture. We all have it in our own workplaces. It gets banged on from from the top, but the culture is completely wrong. And it, unfortunately, if those at the top set a poor culture, it trickles down so fast, and we're seeing it on the field. And no one cares. They obviously don't care at the top. They're incompetent, and unfortunately, that's showing week in, week out on the football field. So, yeah, like we can buy players, we can get a manager in until they sort out their S out at the top. I won't swear on here, but yeah, we're in for a long ride. It's the hope that's gonna kill us.
I just wanted to ask one more question. Yeah, fingers crossed. I'm sure everybody will be saying that in the comments as well. I want to talk about Tony Martial. We started off the season with maybe 6 or 7 strikers. I was kind of happy to see him leave. You know, we can get some game time. He wasn't really our first choice striker or winger. I completely get it. You know, Cavani came off the back of a fantastic season. We got Ronaldo back. I get it, completely get it. Things have changed a lot in the last 9 months. Let's quickly go around the table, 1 or 2 minutes each. Start off with yourself, Fred. Can you see Martial starting a game at the start of next season?
No, I don't think so. His loan spell clearly hasn't gone well. And to be honest, for most Arsenal fans, I don't think that's a surprise. He was just similar to Rashford, really. He just hasn't shown any quality or enthusiasm in recent years. He's had his chance. It's not as if we've done a Donny van der Beek on him, and it's always that what if. I just think his time, he hasn't fulfilled his potential, and his time at the club is probably coming to an end. It's a bit of a worry. I think Mourinho wanted to sell him, and Ed Woodward, it was reported someone blocked it. So it just shows who actually, runs the club. On the other hand, or playing devil's advocate, we are going to have a big exodus this summer, and he has got his contract's not expiring at the end of the season, so you never know. The new manager might take a punt, see if he can resurrect his career on that side. But yeah, look, as things are as of today, I'd be gobsmacked if we didn't look to either loan him or sell him next year. And just lastly on the Martial topic, I think trying to become a striker has killed him. I thought when he joined the club, he was fantastic on the left-hand side. The way his debut goal against Liverpool, everyone will remember that. I think his best traits are dribbling with the ball. I would actually argue at one point he was one of the best dribblers in the league. No one could tackle him. He had a good season through the middle after we sold Lukaku, but it's not, he's not a top 6 or top 10 even striker, maybe on the left, but that's what's killed him. Whether that's his fault or the manager's fault, trying to convert him into that, I don't know. But yeah, unfortunately, I think his time at the club has ended or should end, and it's going to be a hard one to come back from.
Yeah, I was going to say if Martial still remains at the club, I don't see him probably starting, the very first game in the next season. But he's hardly lit up in his loan spell at Seville. I mean, he's only had, I think, 1 goal and 1 assist, and he's missed, I think, a fortnight with an injury problem as well. So I just think Martial is just... I mean, there would have been big questions around if he'd gone... he could still do it. Still have a great run to the end of the season. But the man, there's big questions. If he'd gone to Seville and then straight away started tearing it up, and then it would have been a nice problem for United to have. But so at the moment, Martial, the problem still remains with United. I mean, it's just Seville. I don't think they're going to take up the option to sign him. They're not being tempted by what they're seeing, and it's whether a new manager coming in might think they can get something out Martial if he's convinced to stay. But from what I'm reading, Martial says, I want to go completely. I want to get away from Old Trafford. So, but if he wants to get away from Old Trafford, well, he's going to have to lift his form at Seville, because we're not going to have probably many suitors at the door saying, we'll take Martial off your hands. But I don't think we're going to recruit not near enough as what we paid for him. So, but I just think there's a phrase that was hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. I think Martial, on his day, he's got the talent. He can just be unplayable against the opposition, but it's been too inconsistent, and I just think with Martial, you just see his persona on the pitch. It looks like he's not interested, or as I would like to say, it looks like a bit lazy. But then I'm reminded of Dimitar Berbatov. It looked like he wasn't doing much on the pitch, but with Berbatov, as he said, I didn't like to run much, but he used to get in the right positions at the right times to be at the end of a cross or a pass or to score the goals. But Martial, he's a bit of an enigma at the moment, and I just think, is it best? Is he once away? Should we just hopefully find another club that can take him off our hands?
Neil, final word with yourself, mate, on Martial?
No, he's got to go. That's it.
But will he go?
I'm not going to use 100 words when one will do. No, done it. Rubbish.
Guys, it's been a fantastic show. Grateful out to it. Sorry my internet played up, and thank you to Stuart who came at the start of the show just to jump in when my internet crashed as soon as I clicked the live button. Fred, Neil, lovely to do a show with you guys. Hope to come back on either next week or the week after. Just great to have you back on, and thank you to everybody in the comments. Andrew, I'll see you shortly, I'm sure, and we shall catch you again soon. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.